I have created a social media kind of survey for kind of researching about campaigns and what people think about campaigns and which kind of type of campaign is most effective and stuff like that. But unfortunately, with this survey, I only got 5 responses. So obviously, a lot of the audience didn't really engage with this survey. As with, the survey about mental health, a lot more people engage with that because a lot more people could relate to that, really. So I think that maybe that's why people didn't respond to this because even though I shared it on Facebook and LinkedIn yet again, and I promoted it as well, I just think a lot of people weren't that interested in it, really. And I don't really blame them. Campaigns can be a bit of a boring subject, but it's important for me to kind of find out, really, about the kind of the public's kind of opinions and stuff like that. But I mean, surveys aren't my favourite type of research. I prefer kind of interviewing people and watching kind of practical videos and stuff like that. So overall, I can't really blame the audience for not being engaged with this. But the first question I asked was, what is your age? And every single one of the responses said they were 16 to 19. So I'm not surprised by that. Yet again, with my Facebook, a lot of my friends are around the same age as me, kind of teenager to young adults. So I think that's like a big demographic because of my Facebook. Then I asked, what is your gender? And we have 4 females and 1 male. So I also have a lot more female friends on Facebook and so on. So I'm not really surprised by that either. I also asked, did you see a lot of campaigns growing up, such as in school or TV? And a lot of people said yes. Well, one person said yes. A lot of people said sometimes, and then there's one person who said not sure. So I think growing up myself, I didn't see a whole lot of campaigns, but I remember when I was in primary school, we had to learn about fire safety and not to play with matches and so on. So I remember kind of stuff when I was younger, such as road safety and stuff like that, but not a lot. There wasn't a lot of varied campaigns growing up. So then I asked, what campaign do you remember vividly? And the responses were, one in particular was the dangers about alcohol, this girl can change for life, and then one person said, I don't know. So 2 people skipped the question. And then question number 5, in relation to the previous question, why do you remember that particular campaign? And a couple of people said a lot of imagery was quite graphic and had a lot of shock value, giving it a more powerful impact, and it kind of terrified me and stuff like that. And I think shock value can really help with a campaign if it's done right, but you have to be respectful of the demographic you're aiming at. So if you're aiming at young teenagers and stuff like that, you want it to be shocking, but you don't want it to be too shocking, So then it gets across the message, but then it's easy to watch, if that makes sense. And then the other response was always on TV, relatable, interesting, and motivational. So I think that's for the Change for Life girl. This girl can change for life. And looking back on that campaign, I do agree with that. So I think for a campaign to be, successful, it needs to have a little bit of shock value, but not too much. It needs to be memorable in that way, so then people can remember it. But it also needs to be relatable, and it needs to pique someone's interest as well, so then it sticks in that person's mind, because that is what a campaign is about. It's about getting across your message, but then people remembering it afterwards and talking about it and spreading awareness about it. So the next question asked was, what campaign format is most effective in your opinion? Now, most people said video campaigns, and I can't really blame them, because a lot of video campaigns that it's more like accessible, I suppose. You can put them on social media, TV, an advert, stuff like that. But the reason why I want to do photo campaigns is because I'm really passionate about photography. That is what I want to do. I'm not passionate about, filmmaking and making, videos and stuff like that. I'm very passionate about photography. I was just interested in what they thought was kind of like the most popular type of campaign, just to see what they said. And I can kind of understand why it is video campaigns, but for this project, because I'm really passionate about photography and I really want to kind of improve on my skills as a photographer for this project, that is why I'm going to be doing photo campaigns instead of video campaigns, even though they are more popular. So the next question I asked was, did you see mental health campaigns growing up? And a lot of people said no, and then only one person said sometimes. And in my personal experience, I've never seen a mental health campaign growing up. It was very, very rare, but even then I didn't see any. And the next question I asked was, do you see more mental health campaigns now than you did when you were younger? And four people said yes, and then one person said not sure. And that kind of doesn't surprise me because, I see a lot more mental health campaigns than I did when I was younger. I then asked, like, why do you think that is? And people have said less stigma, more understanding, more help available. So I do agree with that definitely. And another person said it's making people more aware. And another person said people are being more open about mental health now than when I was at school. Also, there is way more exposure on it because of the internet. And I do absolutely agree with that, really. Because of social media, because it's very accessible and it's easy to share things. It's a lot more easier, and it's a lot more common to see mental health campaigns or stuff like that, really. So I'm not very surprised, to be honest, that people see a lot more mental health campaigns than they used to when they were younger. But I do think that's a really good thing that there's more awareness going on with the internet and so on. So because I had very little answers for this campaign, I'm not too sure what to do with it really. It's been quite interesting for me to kind of trying to find out what characteristics of a campaign that I need to make mine memorable and successful. And from what I've gathered from this survey, I think it's important that it needs to have a little bit of shock value, not too much where it's very kind of scarring, if that makes sense. A little bit like 13 Reasons Why, which James and Amy said that it wasn't very represented at all, like depression and suicide, and that it was shock value just because, that's kind of the only thing that really had it going for it, really. But I do think there needs to be a little bit of shock value so then it sticks in that person's mind, but it also needs to be interesting so it piques someone's interest. But it also needs to be memorable as well, so then people will be in their mind and they will talk about it to other people. Or have you seen this? Have you seen that? So then it's spreading a lot more awareness. So I think that's kind of what the characteristics I need for my survey. But also looking at other surveys in my kind of secondary research section, I do think that looking at them, it's really helped me as well to kind of understand what makes a good campaign and what makes a bad campaign, which I explain in those posts. But I do think that I need to have a memorable campaign, an interesting campaign, and something that's a little bit different that haven't really been done before, especially for the mental health campaigns, because a lot of people that I talk to about mental health in the interviews have said that a lot of them are over like glamorizing mental health and stuff like that, which I do not want to do. So I think that's kind of what I'm doing differently than the other kind of campaigns and so on.